Hi everyone. Welcome to another Sunday Sprints with the Lazy Gang. We hope you're ready for some cozy and very chatty, productive times. So, hi.
Wait, I'm gonna be annoying and be like,
Yeah.
can you swap us around? I find it so weird when the host isn't the first one. I don't know why it bothers me. Yes,
Yay.
this makes sense because it's your channel and you're the host today.
I
So
didn't I didn't even think of that, but I agree.
good.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm assuming anyone who watches us knows that I'm Malin and I'm trying. And today, today I am going to be closing that door after the dog keeps opening it. And thank you, Edgar. And I'm going to be trying to read some more. I don't have the book with me. I have my Kindle of this book I'm reading for Stig's live stream at the end of the month.
Mm,
Let me plug it in. So it'll be on the last Tuesday of the month, which I believe is the 24th.
excellent.
Um, and we shall be reading up on creating character arcs. I keep forgetting the entire name of the book because it's really a long one.
Mm.
Creating character arcs. I'm just literally Googling it. Because there you go. It is called Creating Character Arcs Work. Oh, that's the workbook. But I can tell you who it is by. It's by K.M. Wayland, and
Mhm.
he's got a bunch in that series, but we're reading that one specifically. And
Awesome.
we shall be chatting about that at the end of the month. But in the meantime, I've been using it a lot to sort of try and figure out some things about Olive, my main character in The Art of
Mm,
Submitting Demons. So yeah, sorry,
cool.
that was a long intro about what I'm doing.
No, I'm so excited. I mean, maybe this is a sneak peek of the discussion that you and Steve will have, but do you feel like the book is helping? Like scale of 1 to 5, you think it's a good craft book so far?
I'd say some parts yes, and some parts are making some things more confusing because I think maybe I need to nitpick at it a bit more and pick the bits that work for me and not the
Mm,
other bits because they might work differently in a different craft book. But because I'm reading the book, I feel like I was trying too hard to stick to it by the letter and be like, this is
mm,
how they do it. This is what they do. And the next this happens. And I was like, this doesn't work with my story. And I was like, but it worked great with Save the Cat and it's slightly different. So, it's just not
yeah,
every craft book tells you the exact same thing. And I need to remind myself, I don't have to match it to the fucking letter
right,
to this one book I'm currently reading.
right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, good, good. I am going to be drafting today. I'm still working on Hera's book. I've done a I've done a weird thing where I got about 20K into Hera's book, and then I kind of decided that I wanted to go back to the beginning. And so I've kind of been rewriting it from the beginning, not changing very much, but just adding and fleshing out a lot because I
Mm.
felt like I was just going too fast.
Yeah.
And I was like just going on the main plot points, but I was
Are
feeling like I
you
was missing a lot.
are you technically still working through the Reedsy course
I
for it?
am,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, it
Okay.
ends at the end of September.
Okay.
So I'm starting my last vlog for the course tomorrow. And I don't know what shape my draft is going to be in at the end of the course since I've made this decision to go back and kind of redo the beginning. But I'm trying to remind myself that progress is not linear and it's helping me get to know my
I think
characters a lot better. And I was kind of hitting that wall of like, I
you've
don't
also
know who these
you've
people
also
are.
worked through other drafts before in other books before, and I think at some point we understand better our own process and what works best for us in the future, in the long term. And I
Yeah.
feel like if you feel in your gut, I'd rather go back now and fix these things now than have to deal with more of a mess later, then
Yeah.
I think that's what's right for you then. And I think that's absolutely valid. So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
how many words you have by the end, it's you'll have a better shaped book
Hmm.
than if you hadn't done that. So
Yeah. I almost feel like this is me as a headlights writer where I get like however far into it where I understand what the plot beats really are going to be, and then I go back
yeah.
to the beginning and kind of flesh those out and make that progress make sense, and then I'm ready to go a little bit further down the dark road and see
Mm.
what's down there and then go back, and so don't know.
Because I think what's surprising about the format of the course is learning those aspects of what makes a book while drafting the book.
Hmm.
And if anything, I think I would prefer to learn some of these things. Some of them I'm like, yes, I'd love to discovery write this and figure it out as I go. But then
Hmm.
there's other aspects I'd rather have figured out earlier on.
Yeah.
And you just don't know until you try it, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the main thing that tripped me up, was I'm trying to explain this without giving away the plot. But I had started with one, plot, and then I realized as I was getting into it that it really, like, really made some aspects of my characters unlikable.
Mm,
And I was like, "I really don't know if this is the story that I wanna tell. I think this is getting away from the story that really made me excited." So I think if I go back and kind of just rejig the plot catalyst, I think it'll go in a different direction. So,
okay.
yeah. And the most fantastic news of all, I had the best thrift find yesterday, which I would like to show
Oh my
everybody.
God, I love that.
I got a
So cool.
vintage sweatshirt from a national park, Glacier,
Oh, it looks so cool.
Montana, and it was $4. I'm so happy.
Can you show the glacier part closer? Is it like a double like color thing? It looks almost like there's white on top of the pink on the word glacier. You know the
It's yeah, pink and yellow. It's Lazy Gang
yes.
colors,
I love
actually.
that. I love that. Right? On brand. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
so
not
it's my
trying
perfect
anything.
Sunday cozy shirt. I'm so happy.
I don't have anything to wear right now that would. I mean, unless I wear my Barbie jacket, but it's very formal, so I don't think it would
Yeah.
work.
Maybe we'll have to figure out when our actual Lazy Gang anniversary is, and then we can dress up for that stream.
True. I never think about that kind of stuff. I'm just like, eh.
I don't even know when it was. I'm sure we've already been in the 2 years by now.
Yeah, I think so. Marta, just to answer quickly, I'm not doing the Reedsy course. When they contacted me about doing something similar to what Anna was doing, it was a bit later than Anna. And I think they were aware of the fact that, like, I basically answered saying, I can do something, but I am not in like the right space right now to draft an entire book because
Mhm.
I was looking for a new job at the time, or I was interviewing through new jobs and everything, and it was like too much personal life,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm not drafting anything right now, but I'm thinking of a new idea. So they were like, we've got this 5p pre like sessions before the course, so I said I can do a vlog about that, and then I thought maybe I would still have access to the course after, but they cut me off after. I don't have access to the course.
It's okay. You were protecting your peace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's say hello to some friends. Hello, Flora. Hi, Devesha.
Hello.
Saying hi from the
Hope,
Blank Page Tavern.
yeah, say hi to everyone and hope everyone is kicking ass and no one is dying.
Yeah. Hi, James. And hello to Marta. My grocery delivery arrived like 3 minutes before you were going live. Terrible timing.
How
That's
dare
okay. We're obviously going to chat for way too long before we do anything productive, so you can just listen to us yap while you put everything away.
Yeah, that's typical.
Flora will be drafting and probably hopping over to the Blank Page Tavern a little bit too. Don't blame you. Yes, that'll be coming out in early October, probably. Yeah, curious how you'll look back on the course at the end. Yeah, me too. I mean, it's been really, really well put together. I'm very impressed by it. It's a big time commitment though, so that's probably the one thing I'll talk about the most is like the life balance piece of
Hmm.
things. Yeah.
I think that would be it's a brand new course, and I feel like it would be good feedback for them as well, because I feel like Readsy stuff in general is really well put together and always really like useful. I've always found even stuff that
Mhm.
is free.
Yeah.
But like maybe they haven't considered that a lot of people who are writing novels are full-time workers at the same time, and sometimes if you're doing full-time work plus that, the amount of work it requires from you, you don't have space for anything else, like getting ill or
Mhm.
having suddenly last minute plans, or I think that's the only thing they might be like, you should do a version that takes 6 months and you take that long to do it instead of just 3.
Yeah, yeah, it's true, and yeah, it's probably just something for the, like, consumer to consider, like, if I'm gonna
Yeah,
make this investment, like, I need to
yeah,
clear my calendar and make sure I'm ready to, like, focus for 3 months, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly.
Thank you for the love on the shirt. I was so
I love it.
excited. When we were at the thrift store yesterday, Luke was like one aisle away from me and I like held it up and just looked at him until he turned around and he was like
And he was like, "Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah."
and this is a national park that we've been to. I should have said that. This is a place that is very
Oh, that's
special
so
to us.
cute.
So that's why we were so excited.
That is very cute.
um yes. That makes sense though.
Yeah, sorry, I don't.
We have a new friend.
Oh my God, hello.
Hi, Chloe.
Love the name Helicopter. It was great.
That's awesome. Welcome. I hope that you enjoy the stream. We're very chatty, but I promise we will get a little amount of writing done, at least.
What if I'm not putting you on the spot, Chloe? What will you be working through if you are working on anything during the sprints? Are
Mhm.
you a writer? What do you write? Just can you tell us a tiny bit about yourself without me being too overwhelming?
Give us all the deets. And hello, JC. I'm doing a course with the
Mm,
Novelry right now. It's been incredibly helpful, but it's a bit pricey, and most of the live classes are better for UK people because it's based in the UK if you work a 9 to 5. But I would still highly recommend it.
nice.
Ooh,
I've heard
thank
of
you.
Novelry, yeah, but I've just never really looked into what they do. Oh, and also nothing to do with that, but and also maybe JT, you might be interested, and I think anyone else, if anyone else is in the UK, obviously Marta.
Mhm.
There is a TikTok that showed up on my page the other day, and I saved it. And I went to save the page as well. It was about people who meet up once a month in London to do writing together. And
Jealous.
I saw the TikTok of it and it looked so friendly, and there were a lot of women, which I sometimes feel intimidated if I see a lot of men in an environment. So I feel like it's, however
Mhm.
you feel, about things. It's called londonwriterssalon.com. It's literally like
Wow.
this.
That's
Uh,
so cool.
I should probably just write it in the chat, but essentially, um, it's like they do virtual interviews and master classes, they say. I've not looked up anything else. All I saw was the part where they meet up once a
Mhm.
month to do like they say they do 2:45 sprints during the meetup, and the rest of the time they're chatting and stuff, and that's it.
Perfect.
They're
I love
really cool.
that.
Marta, if you're interested but intimidated like I might be, and you want to meet up there to go together at one, that could be very cute.
Oh my gosh. I'm
I'm
so
just saying.
jealous.
I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry for all the US people. I'm sure you guys have stuff like that as well, obviously. But yeah, it's nice when you find something. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
yes. Okay,
amazing.
I'll I will put the name of the stuff in the chat, and then we can like sort at some point.
JC is also new. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome, JC. Working on what I hope will be the last 20K of a first draft.
Amazing,
Getting close to the
amazing. So you're
finish
so
line.
close to the end.
Yay! That's amazing.
There we go.
Marta was going to Discord you with the same suggestion. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I'm on some newsletters for Atlanta writers groups. But yeah, I'm just intimidated, like you said. And if I had a buddy, Devasha, I would probably be more brave and go
Yeah,
meet
I
some
feel like
people.
going alone to events, to places you've never been before, is becomes almost harder in adulthood sometimes because you're less used to do that, and you've already got more established like friend groups and stuff. And
Hmm.
obviously there's some people who are more introvert and extrovert. It depends how you feel, but I just feel like it's just easier when you show up with a friend or someone you know already. And that doesn't mean you don't have to interact with other people. You can easily be like, let me be your wing woman in terms of,
Hmm.
getting more friends from that. And
Yeah.
when I was younger, I sort of did that with a friend. We both went to this art class because we both wanted to do an art class that was in Brussels. And when we showed up, I felt so much more confident being like, "Hi, oh, this is my friend Eloise, and I'm," and like this sort
Yeah.
of, because you weren't alone to do it, and so suddenly we became friends with two other people from that, and it was just so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally hear you. You can stay, James. You can stay.
No, that's not what I mean, is I think I'm intimidated in entering spaces that have a majority of men over a majority of women. I like spaces that have both personally, but say I would never go to a D&D group I've not met before, for instance, because that often has more men than women, and I've only played D&D with people I know already. So, but I understand why some people then look for more female-only D&D groups because of that reason, because we hear some horror stories, unfortunately, sometimes.
You just want to go do a little scope and then it's good.
Yeah.
Um, Chloe is working on a thriller, which would be the third book that I've written.
Oh
That's
my
excellent,
god.
Chloe.
That's amazing. Wow. Impressive.
Marta says there's actually a similar writer's salon a bit closer to me that I've not been brave enough to go to for the last few months. So you have multiple options here.
What? Yeah. That's so cool.
And JC is in Birmingham. Oh my gosh. Let me know if you're
Nice.
ever in town. That's amazing. Yes, I live in Atlanta. um,
Wait, because I thought JC said it was better for UK people. So do you mean Birmingham, UK, or is there? Because I'm assuming you guys have a bunch of names that we have here, because of, colonization and all that.
oh, I thought she or they may have meant Birmingham, Alabama, but I think they were saying the novelry course is UK based.
Okay, yeah, but yeah. So because of that, I assume JC was in the UK. So maybe I'm wrong. It's just because
Let
Birmingham,
us let us know,
big
JC.
city in the UK.
And Marta says, yeah, being intimidated by spaces with mostly men, you would not be able to work in engineering.
No, I would not. Although I have a lot of friends who are engineers, but no, I would not enjoy that personally.
Yeah, you're a tough gal, Marta. All right, y'all, we have been chatting for 17 minutes.
Sorry.
No, no apologies. This is the brand. But I will go ahead and introduce our topic for today because we do kind of have like a loose topic of discussion that we like to touch on. Um, and basically just based on where we are in our projects and what we're thinking about lately. And so today that is character creation, as Malin kind of already talked about with the craft book.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's something that you've been thinking about with working on Olive and the Art of Sending Demons a lot. Um, and yeah, me drafting Hera's book, I kind of got a good chunk in and realized like I needed to retool some things
Yeah.
and make sure that I was really keeping my character consistent from the very start and carrying that all the way through because she was just feeling a little wishy-washy, which I didn't
Mm,
totally like. So I'm going to pop up our first discussion question, which we can think about while we are sprinting, and then we will come back and chitty chat about it after the sprint. But that is, what do you need to know about your characters in order to start a draft? So, kind of talking about that pre work, what is like your bare minimum of stuff you need to figure out before you feel ready to actually start doing the typing? So, we can think about that. How long do you want to sprint for, Malin?
30? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. I pulled up the hexed hourglass,
Amazing.
but I will
I
just.
figured if you asked me how long I wanted to, that probably meant you were on one of those because they're quite easy to navigate through
Mm-hmm.
the time.
Yeah, love these. Love the witchy vibe. All right, everybody. So we're going to get into our first sprint. So good luck. We'll see you on the other side. All right, everyone. That's the end of our first sprint.
Woohoo!
How'd we do?
Pretty good. I think I read. I actually did not check which page I was at. I think I read 25 pages or so,
Excellent.
and did a little bit of note taking as I
Hmm.
go. 'Cause that's sort of what I'm doing, is sort of trying to make it work for the art of summoning demons. So I was doing a little bit of that at the same time. So I'm reading that one quite slowly because
Hmm.
every time I've got like an idea from it, I stop and I start writing that, and
Yeah,
then it's back and forth
that's a
basically.
good sign. That's a good sign.
Mm, mm.
I feel like when you like speed read a craft book and it doesn't spark anything and you don't go,
Yeah,
"Oh, hold on, I need to write that down." Like that's kind of a sign that maybe it's not
yeah.
the most
The only
useful.
thing, if I'm honest, is I don't know if I will read the second part because I've just finished the first part, which is about the positive change arc,
Mm,
which is what most people tend to write as like a main character with who changes, who has an
right,
actual change. And
right.
then I just got to part two, which is about the flat arc. And I don't know if I might just speed read it or not read it and skip it because I'm like I've never wanted to really write a flat arc in
Yeah,
general. I can't think of a character in my books that has more of a flat arc. Um,
yeah.
I don't know. There's a change in every single one of my character, I think. And the part after the third part is about the negative arc, which I do want to read because that's usually
Mm.
how you have a villain that is born. So I love to hear more about that. But I'm sort of like, do I skip the flat arc or do I just like skim read it and just sort of like go quickly? I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe for side characters? I'm not sure. But then is it an arc?
Mm,
If it, I don't know. I'm
yeah,
interested.
I don't know. Yeah.
Um, it was good for me. I'm working on this section of like, in my first go at this section, I had like 1,000 words of this scene, 1,000 words of this scene, and I'm kind of reordering a couple plot points and mashing some things together. So
Nice.
I'm just working on this like 2,000 word section and just kind of like weaving some stuff together. And basically, like the first section was a lot of summary stuff. It was a lot of me
Mm,
just dumping like how my character is feeling, what she's worrying about, and then another scene where there's action and there's something happening. And so I'm trying to weave those things together.
mash them together. That's
Yeah.
not, that's really hard to do, I find sometimes. It's trying to make
Yeah.
two things work as one. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
How's it going for it? Are you feeling
It's
good about it?
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. I'm having her, I mean, what is a fantasy book without a trip to the library, right?
Mhm.
And so she's kind of reflecting on some of these things as she's like making her way down to the library, and I've moved this library scene up earlier.
I'm
Um,
literally trying to think about. I have 2 out of 4 at least that have trips to the library. I'm thinking, does Night of
yeah.
Death have a trip to the library? I don't think it does. No. But it sort of could make sense in that one to have a trip to the library. The only one I wouldn't have one probably is Space Princess, but
Yeah,
a trip to the digital library, you know.
could be.
But I
Um,
agree, it's a
yeah.
staple.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see how everybody did. I'm going to save everybody's answers to the questions. Hello, Jessica. Thanks for joining us. Marta did about 10 minutes of writing, then laundry finished, so I went to hang it up. Oh, you're just being
Nice.
so like productive today.
Yeah.
James got through a chunk of my Sunday routine before the NFL games start later. Very nice. Um, Could the flat arc still be useful for side characters? Yeah.
I don't know because I feel like it's going to talk about it through the eye of the main character. So I would definitely not develop my side characters quite as much, if that
Hmm.
makes sense, as the
Yeah.
MC. So yeah, I don't know.
By DW is here as well. Hey there, just joining, but got caught up on the earlier chat during the sprint. Thank you. Chloe wrote 1,000 words, which is so cool because I've been so slow with writing lately. Wow.
Amazing.
1,000 words in 30 minutes is pretty
That's
amazing.
very, very impressive.
JC wrote 100 some words, and then my dog decided it was time to play, and she cannot be denied.
That's fair. You have to.
Marta said, none of my fantasies, admittedly, only two have trips to the library, but I feel like I need to write a third fantasy with a library scene.
I feel like to me, there has to be a gala or, ballroom or
Yeah,
whatever
that is
moment. You have to
number
have a
one.
party. Yeah,
Yeah.
there needs to be a party.
Hmm.
And then I love a good library research moment, but it can take
Yeah.
different shapes. Like it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be an actual trip to the library, but I love a research moment. And I
Hmm.
think I think it comes from Twilight. And I think it comes from her being like, what? I'm gonna go and find that book about,
Yeah.
the legends
Her
about the
Google
poor
searches.
Claudia. And it's so fucking funny because she goes to get the book from the bookstore. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that looks so cute. And then she gets home, opens the book, finds one thing in the book, and immediately goes back to Google. I'm like, girl, read
You could
the
have
rest
just
of the
done
book.
Google from the start.
That's ridiculous.
So funny. Um, all right. Well, would you like to answer our first question? What do you need to
Oh
know
my
about
god.
your characters in order to start a draft?
I will say this is a hard question to answer because I
Hmm.
don't think I know for sure what I need, but I know that every book I've written so far, I think, has been slightly different
Hmm.
because I'm a bit of a reformed Spencer. So
Same.
my initial way of writing when I wrote The Art of Summoning Demons, and therefore now the problems I have to deal with probably stem from that, is that I was more of a discovery writer for it, and I sort of tried to figure out Olive on the page as I wrote
Hmm.
through her story. And so I figured her out while I was writing, and it wasn't
Yeah.
very much a lot of thinking previously. But then for other characters, I feel like since then I've been more interested in getting to know the character early on and before I start writing any of the draft.
Yeah.
For instance, I'd say, but well, my latest example is probably Project Snowstorm that I've not started writing at all, but I've already figured out a lot about the characters, if only through some of the plots. And I feel like some people, and a lot of craft books tend to say you need to figure out your character and from that comes the plot. And I don't understand how that's possible. That could never be me. Because it's like, no, I'm excited by a story that I want to tell. And then I figure out who would be the best person to live through that story. But like,
Interesting.
I have to imagine scenes in my head and daydream about them, and like maybe there's a fighting scene or maybe there's this, and it's like that's where it comes from. And then I'm like, oh my god, this character, maybe she's got a childhood like this, and maybe this happened in her past, so that's how she behaves during that fight scene. You know,
Right.
like for me, it has to come from the plot. And I get that like a lot of advice and a lot of people tend to be the other way around and are more like, no, you figure out your character and then the plot comes from that. And I'm like, but what do you daydream about? Like, are they just sitting silently and doing nothing?
Yeah. I think that advice probably comes from a place of like, what would challenge my character the most and how can I
Mm,
ruin their lives and make them force them to change?
yeah,
But I see your point as well.
I think yeah, for me it's always been like that, and even as I figure things out more about the character, before I start writing, I still first have more of an inkling about the story that I want to tell.
Hmm.
And then I sort of, from that element, like, yeah, my two main characters for Project Snowstorm, I feel like I've already figured out a lot about who they should be as people and
Yeah.
what that means in terms of their past and maybe their trauma. I've got a lot of trauma for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think premise is obviously very important, and I think that's still how books pop into my head first is premise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as for me, I think similar. It's changed a lot
Mm.
since I've become a reformed pantser.
Look at
And
us at the
yeah,
Pence Anonymous.
I don't like to like uh draw them in such detail that I'm not interested in writing them anymore. Like I do
Yeah.
still have that discovery um urge where I want to do some of that finding on the page, but I think the things that I need to know are how they're going to change and like what belief they have that's going to be challenged and why they
Mm,
believe it so badly.
yeah,
Um, just those larger questions of how they're going to get pushed.
yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like it's um it's a hard one to think about the shard of glass or the ghost or whatever different craft books call it,
Hmm.
but it makes a lot of sense to think about that pre-writing, and I
Yeah.
certainly did not when I wrote Demons. So I feel like that is now things that I'm starting to figure out as I'm thinking about book two as well. And I'm like, I need something that could either last through the two books or
Hmm.
come back in a different way in book
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so as far as like what I've done so far for Hare's book, so this is obviously my latest project, so my newest skills being deployed. I always do the Lizelle character sheet, which comes from her video that I plug all the time, which kind of talks about those larger questions
Yeah.
of like why does your character believe this and how does it affect them, like kind of setting up who your character is at the start of the book. And
Yeah.
then, I kind of like plotting the journey, but just thinking about that like uh before snapshot of who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 16 personalities quiz is something I also do, and I get so much out of that. I was thinking about doing a little screen share, although it will potentially spoil some things about my character. Um,
I'd love to see a screen share, but only do it if you're comfortable.
yeah, so let me see here. This is like the most risky screen share I've ever done. Um, so the 16 personality quiz, you take it as your character and it spits out results that are kind of aligned with like Myers-Briggs, but I really like the way the results are written. So for Hera, for example, she came out as an ESTJ, and it gives you some basic traits about how they think, which for me
Mm.
says a lot about voice. So she's very decisive, thorough, highly organized, but she's also self-conscious, sensitive to stress. So kind of some general stuff like that. They're classic images of the model citizen. They help their neighbors uphold the law and try to make sure everyone participates, which for Hare's position and core kind of is interesting.
Mm.
It gives you strengths and weaknesses.
I
So
think
I didn't,
also what's good about that is that if you, as you read it, you're like, no, that's not right. You can make an immediate decision of like, well, that means I know my character and I know that's
yeah,
not correct. So that's always useful.
yeah, you don't have to like just take everything wholesale, but
Mm.
it's so nice because I didn't even have to come up, sit down and think on paper, okay, what are Hera's strengths and what are her weaknesses? Like,
Mm.
I just got a list.
Yeah.
As if someone was telling me all about her. Tells me how this influences her romantic relationships, her friendships, her career. Um, and yeah, like that was just so much to start
But
with.
it's
And like you
useful.
said, don't have to use all of it, but um, I'm a big proponent of that quiz.
I should try that. Definitely. That sounds like a good idea. It's a
Yeah.
different way to work it as well. And like you say, having something else tell you the things is just takes it away
When you're
from.
starting from zero, when you're starting from absolutely nothing and you're like, I do not know this person at all,
Yeah.
it's helpful. So yeah, let's see what our answers to the question were. Marta said, I can normally go in with just one or two character traits and then develop them as I go. I tend to rewrite the book after that, so it's not a problem if I don't nail the voice from the start. However, for this side project, it's a bit more character focused than I normally write, so I wasn't happy with this when I was drafting. Trying to figure out my characters more before I get back into drafting this time. I only made it to the end of Act 1 this first time around. Yeah,
It
I think,
sounds also like a learning new methods and sort of figuring out as you go how it works
yeah,
best for you. Yeah.
yeah. That's kind of what just happened to me. I got through Act 1 and figured not quite nailing it.
Hmm.
Um, and that's all right. Still moving forward.
It's interesting because I agree as well with Marta that like some projects are more character focused and some projects perhaps less, or
Mhm.
it's not the most important thing about them.
Yeah.
Because when I wrote um, An Office Full of Monsters, so Lockhart and Beckett, Rose was a character I sort of felt like I knew immediately as I started writing, much more so than Olive, even though
Mm,
I did pant a lot through it. But I still felt like there were stronger, like to me, I think her main flaw and her main lie or whatever, the thing she believes that is, false,
mm,
was so much more evident from the start because I think I probably wrote her as like a part of my teenage self or something. Like
yeah.
she surrounds herself with toxic people who are not her true friends. And
Mm.
almost like through her adventures and like, solving supernatural crime, she ends up with a team of found family that are good for her and that are actually, and it's like almost that journey that I
Yeah.
knew from the start was going to be it. Compared to Olive, it was a little bit more, I'm having a harder time figuring out what she
Yeah.
believes. But yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. JC said, I need to know enough about their history to understand what they want and why, at least vaguely, which makes sense. James said, I tend to want thorough character descriptions, plot arcs. All my instincts are to be a heavy duty planner. This past month or so, I've been using AI to let me interact
Mm,
differently with potential characters. I'm learning that there is a resonance PT when the character feels ready. Of course, now my OCD is trying to figure out why I feel resonance.
interesting.
Interesting. Oh, resonance point, maybe?
Mm, that would make sense.
Interesting. I want to know more about this. Like, are you chatting to them and the AI is kind of pretending to be your character chatting back to you? That's interesting.
That's a good
Um,
way to do it. Yeah.
yeah. Flora said initially I don't need much data, just an idea of their general attitude and a few details that seem secondary, but could become important later or make their vibe more tangible.
Mm.
Chloe said, all I need to know about a character is what they're afraid of and how to make them face their fears. I
I
like
like,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, I think knowing what is my character afraid of is very fun.
Yeah. How do I torture my character?
Yeah. Um, Marta said, only one of my two fantasies have a party.
Marta, you need to have a party in every fantasy book, obviously.
Yeah, even my sci-fi dystopia had a party in it.
Yeah, I mean, even Space Princess has a gala at some point. So you need it.
Flat arcs are good for mentor characters, a fixed point for the characters to
Oh,
aim at. Of course, these characters then have to die as a final lesson, a la Ben Kenobi.
interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about the mentor character.
Mm,
I don't really think I have a mentor character in The Art of Summoning Demons. Like, I
mm,
don't think I have that archetype anywhere. I'm not
that's
sure.
interesting. Good fit for it, though.
Mm,
Another Twilight legacy. She's got to
yeah,
be mentioned at least once in every stream.
yes.
I think I need
It's
to.
the season that is starting, the hua
That's
hua
true.
hua weather.
It's hoo weather outside.
Exactly.
I think I need to know what they excel at and what they struggle with internally and externally. This helps guide me in plotting which things they need to go through at each beat,
That's a good point,
which I
yeah.
think is interesting. I read a craft book a couple years ago that I think about from time to time. And the main takeaway from that book was like plot is a constant shifting back and forth between your character succeeding and then failing and being
Mm,
on the offensive and then being on the defensive. And so, like, having that back and forth between my character is good at this, and then my character gets knocked back, and then my character did something
yeah.
right, and then they figure out something that puts them on the back foot. And like that is increasing tension.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that is also helpful to know like what they would excel at.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that.
Plot seats character who transforms plot. It's a circle.
Yeah.
And I have to sneeze. Okay. I'm hovering over the mute button. Um, Flora said, for my current whip, I did write quite a few scenes that happened before the plot, and so got to know the characters a little without the pressure of it having to be part of the plot already.
I like that. Yeah.
Doing extra work could never be me, but I admire this.
This is what I'm finding myself almost having to do, I think, with Olive, because I didn't figure her out early enough. And now I'm
Mhm.
like, I think there are more things that should inform how she is as a person now. But I'm almost figuring out that I want to change the start scene as a different one where she's
Mm.
almost, it's almost, it has to be the scene where she becomes who she is throughout the book. Um,
Ah.
which is, I think, the funeral of her grandfather. So I'm sort of thinking I might have to do that as my first initial chapter scene,
Mm.
which is a different direction.
Interesting. Oh my gosh. I can see a lot of potential in it for setting up her family
Yeah.
dynamics, though.
Yes. Not only that, but there are some things I'm changing in my head about based off like some feedback I've had, as you know, and also based off thinking more about book two, because I've been thinking a lot about things to change in book one. It's sparking ideas for book
Mm.
two. And I'm now realizing I think I need to rearrange some stuff in book one for what I want to set up for book two.
Yeah.
Um, which, I mean, I know it's very late in the day, but whatever. Whatever process works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know. I relate to this. What I can't
Yes.
do is pick out height, hair color, birthdays for each character. Not sure why, but here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do it. Except I sort of, do you ever like sometimes know what your character's sign is? And you're just like, it's definitely a Libra or it's definitely a Virgo or
I don't know enough about astrology to pick it out right away.
Mm.
I did get that from the 16 personalities quiz. It was suggested that Hera could be
Which
a Libra, which I know because Luke is a Libra. So I was like, I see that.
that's helpful because then you can figure out a birthday if you want to.
Yeah. Yes, definitely make a note of it. It asks really good questions that are like, um, that kind of hint at a shard of glass. Like they almost
Mm,
kind of are more of like questions a therapist would ask.
interesting. That sounds so
Um,
useful. I feel like I need
yeah,
to do that in the next round is doing
it's kind
this
of
thing.
freaky if you do it for yourself. I think you'll feel very understood.
I'm okay. I'm not gonna do that.
Now I want to use AI type a character. I actually had AI convince me I typed myself wrong. What? I don't understand this, but
What do you mean by AI convinced you typed yourself wrong? As in, like, AI was like, no, this is how that character should be. And you were like, but I'm a real human being.
I'm a real boy. Yeah, me and Marta are always in this on the same journey. We're always doing the same thing. Yeah. Since I write thrillers, I typically get to know the villain first, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
afterwards, I think about who the perfect person would be to take them down. I
I
love that.
love that. I would be so curious about more surrounding your way of working thrillers because it sounds so difficult to start from. I've often heard start from the crime or like whatever. So I guess
Right.
starting from the villain makes a lot of sense in that case. And
Yeah.
then figure out who the person is. I guess when you say thrillers, what type of thrillers do you mean? Because there are a lot of subgenres, I think, to the
Yeah.
wider genre of thrillers. But when it comes to like more mysteries and crime novels, I often hear like have the crime first in your mind of what
Yeah.
happens, and then figure out who would be the best sleuthing detective,
Yeah.
whether they're an actual cop or absolutely not, to figure that out.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense because I feel like no matter how good the mystery is, if you get to the end and the villain is like, I did it just because I'm evil or just because I'm crazy, it's like, well, that's not very satisfying, is it? So you do
I
have to
know.
have that good reason or else it all falls
Sometimes
apart.
But you know what's frustrating is sometimes it works really well in TV shows or movies to have a
Yeah.
villain that is like literally just pure evil and that's it and that's the only reason because visually that can still be impressive and you can still get a different journey where your main character's villain is more an internal thing then that
Hmm.
helps them defeat the physical villain, right? But I feel like for writing is just not as good to do that, and I'm disappointed because I wish I could just have a
Yeah.
purely maniacal, you know, villain.
I totally agree. I think there's a chicken or the egg dynamic throughout character development and plot development, but I think I ultimately land on my final plot based on what's best for the character arc. Yeah, I think they are so tightly interwoven that you cannot separate them.
Mm,
I feed AI a prompt and answer questions. Once I have a picture and a good summary, I use it to create an AI Studios character. Then I start interacting with it, telling a story with it. Makes for a very rough zero draft. I'm accumulating interesting characters to put into stories. I
interesting.
asked AI, type me. The questions made me slowly realize I'm not an ISTJ 1W9. I haven't heard that last part before. When it told
Mm.
me I was an INTP 5W4, I wasn't shocked. I had to do Enneagram and MBTI together. Oh my gosh.
I will say this is my understanding of these tests is that they're self-fulfilling prophecies, and so they're heavily contested
Mm.
by professionals to the point that most people, like in, therapy and everything, understand they're not real because you will fill in the questions the way you think will give you a certain type of answers. Most personality tests are like that. And it's very rare to find a way to really figure out who you are. And also people change week by week. Sometimes you will literally be like, I'm
Mhm.
in a different mood today. And you fill the questionnaire and you get a completely different answer from the first time. So it's
Mhm.
not consistent enough to be trustworthy. But I think for like character writing, that's a great thing to do. It's almost the
Yeah.
same as like, astrology. I don't personally really believe in actual astrology, even though I find it very fun to interact with and to
Mhm.
try to believe in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when it comes to character creation, I think it's great because it's very like, oh, these people are meant to be more aloof and like this, and it's very like no person is actually that simple. Everyone is
Yeah.
way more complex than just these traits.
Yeah. It's
But a
yeah, it's very
fictional
helpful
person,
to just have like
yeah,
this kind of like shrink wrapped
yes,
framework to just start
yes,
with. Yeah.
such a good skeleton to work from.
Um, I think I missed somebody. March said, "Does it still count if I add a party later? Because I could totally do that. That actually sounds fun."
Yes.
And I agree
Yeah.
with Chloe. As long as there is a party, we are happy.
You can also have your resolution happen at a party where your characters are all happy and
Mm,
celebrating together, and it's like a really cool, setting for one.
yeah, yeah. Typology and astrology are great for making you think about yourself. The journey is the point.
I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
very reflect. It's a reflection tool. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thanks everybody for sharing your answers. That was very fun. Our next question we're going to talk about after we do some more writing is how has your process around creating characters grown or changed? And we touched on this a little bit, so if you feel like we've talked about it too much, we can go to the third one.
I feel like I can probably yap some more, I'm sure.
Okay. Sounds good. Do you want to
Look,
do
I
another
love
30?
talking about myself, as always.
Well, I love to hear it. Do we want another 30?
I'm happy with 30 if you're happy
Okay,
with it.
that sounds good. As long as I'm not impeding too much on your mealtime.
Oh, no, you're fine. It's 4 o'clock here. I'm good. We're doing this
Right.
timing is really good because it's like in between meal times.
Good.
I am gonna go get a snack though because I have strawberries in the fridge. So
Didn't we have another Lazy Gang stream where we were like all eating strawberries?
yes, I think we did, and I think it was when we put Laura's timer. That is a literal picture of
Yeah.
strawberries used to make a pie or something.
Oh, I don't know why my timer is not loading. Hello. Uh-oh.
Can you refresh it?
Yeah, let me refresh. Okay.
Did it make it worse? Should I have not told you to refresh it?
I don't know. Okay. All
Oh,
right. We're
working.
going.
Okay.
Good luck, everyone. All right. I like that timer because it's cute and pumpkiny.
It's so perfect for the start of the season.
Yeah. How was that spring for you?
It was good. I ate some strawberries and then I spent the rest of the spring doing the 16 personalities tests for Liv
Oh,
and then putting it together into my Notion. So just reformatting a little bit the text so that it fits
excellent.
nicely.
Excellent.
Um, so yeah, I actually like weirdly enough, I did not read any more of the book because I'm still deciding whether I want to read the flat arc. And
Yeah.
so I was mostly trying to read it to help me do this at the moment. Because I can just read it without doing the exercises at other times, like when I'm on my commute to work tomorrow or something. So for
Right.
now, it's like I want to focus more on Olive. So doing that test was quite good, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. What did she come out as?
She came out as the adventurer, which is
Oh.
ISFPA. And a lot of the traits, I'm very happy that they match. So, like at the beginning of the character arc book, some of the early questions before you get into the arcs are like, what could be three adjectives you could use for your main character, blah, blah, things like that.
Hmm.
I've got a lot that are really similar to what came out from the test.
Cool.
So I'm feeling better and more confident about what I know about Olive and who she is as a person.
Consistency.
Yes, that's all I wanted.
Excellent. Excellent.
How did you
Um,
do?
Very good. I also was a little distracted by Notion. I went back and watched your video that you just posted. I watched that last night again and started setting up some world building stuff.
Exciting.
So I've been playing around with Notion a lot for Hera's book as I'm like kind of doing this 2.0 draft.
Nice.
But I did then go back and finish this like 2000 word section. So yeah, I
Nice.
think I'm gonna get to check a chapter off, so that feels good.
That's amazing. Good
Yeah,
job.
yeah. So let me see. Um, how did everybody else do? I think we just have some answers to our second question, so maybe we'll just jump right into that. Marta is excited for autumn, though, as are
Yeah.
we.
I actually think it's my favorite season to dress up to. Does that make sense? Like
Yes.
I just love mid-season coats and jackets and stuff. I love
Yeah.
boots, tiny boots and like tights and I don't know, it's just what I love.
Yeah, I was talking about that exact thing with Luke yesterday because I've been
Yeah.
doing this clothing rental service I've
Mm.
been doing for this past couple of
Yeah.
months, and I just got my new shipment like 2 days
You haven't
ago.
sent us anything. I want to see. Send
I
us a
got
haul.
I got a really excellent pair of like flared 70s jeans and a long skirt and a very fall coated vest and
Oh,
a chore coat, which is hanging on the door right there, just like a green like overcoat layer. And I'm just
nice.
like so excited for fall now. I can wear pants again.
Yes. Oh my god. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I couldn't before because I live in the UK, but depends on the day.
Yeah.
Um, I also just feel like we've had such a short and sort of half shitty summer here. Like it's not been
Mm.
that great. That
Oh,
I need to be excited about fall and autumn just so that it
yeah.
feels more like okay, I'm happy that we didn't get much summer. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. I'm okay
I'm
with it.
fine. I'm fine. I'm not mad at all.
Exactly.
Mark said, you can't be a little distracted by Notion. Doing stuff in Notion is always a good idea and not a distraction.
I feel like if you're doing stuff that is helpful to your writing anyway, I see no issues with that. You know, it's like
Yeah, it was very helpful. Helped me
it's
to get excited about doing this over again too,
yes,
because that was kind of like a ugh feeling, but taking just
mhm,
like a couple of days to set some fun things up in Notion and
yeah,
get some ideas together helped it feel like fresh.
yeah,
I agree with this. Autumn is a great time to focus on projects.
100%.
And Marta is curious about the clothes rental. You mean wear something other than, I mean, shorts.
We've got some here too, Marta. I used to do one. Oh, I forgot the name. There's like two services in the UK that do that, where you tell them about your style preferences, your size,
Mhm.
your measurements, and everything. And then every month they send you a package with a selection of clothes,
Mhm.
and you try them on and you keep what you want and you only pay for that, and you send back the rest that you don't want. At
Yeah.
least I'm assuming it's the same system.
The one I'm doing is a little different, and I like it because
Okay.
I get to pick out exactly what I'm getting. So I think there's a higher chance of me liking everything, and, like,
Yeah.
this shipment that I just picked out was all hits, and I'm so excited. Everything fit
Amazing.
perfect. So yeah, you have, like, 5 spots per month, and you can fill in the spots however you want, so
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
I should see if there's something like that. Also, I think what's great about these services is often you discover brands you didn't know about, I
Yeah,
find.
totally. Yeah, I
And so
mean, hello,
I
I
mean,
shop at the thrift store, I don't know brands. This has been a very educational experience.
I'm a problematic Zara girly. I will buy all the fast fashion items, I know. But, I do love Zara. I can't help it.
Yeah. No, me too.
Especially in the past couple of years. I would say before I had a lot of hit and miss and I wouldn't enjoy anything in the shop. But like recently, the way they're
Mm,
going, I'm like, yes, this is how I dress. This is what I enjoy.
yeah, they're hitting their target audience a little better.
Yeah. And I think the problem partially is also that they make it very easy to send things back if they don't fit,
Oh,
right?
that's
Because
dangerous.
it's all through InPost now, which is like those locker boxes that we
Yeah,
have some at the supermarket next door. So you literally go in, put your package in. You don't need to print any sticker or anything, any receipts. You just close it in, scan the QR code, and it's gone.
love it. Love it, love it.
Too easy. It's the problem.
All right, well, let's get on to our second question. So tell me, how has your process around creating characters grown or changed? What are your
So
thoughts?
I would say that I enjoy a lot more of the character feelers first than I
Mhm.
used to. So that's probably been a big difference with how I first wrote The Art of Summoning Demons. But I don't even want to consider The Art of Summoning Demons as my initial template in the way that I did it, because maybe every project is different, right? Like,
Yeah.
and every time you work on a new project, I think it's different, and
Mhm.
I don't know that the way I've done it or I'm doing it recently is going to be the way I do it next.
Yeah. Very
It's not
fair.
guaranteed. Like, I don't know. I don't know that there's one way that will fit me forever. I think I'll just enjoy a different way for each project. But for
Mhm.
instance, for Space Princess project, my preparation points and everything that I was doing before I started writing was a lot more world building.
Yeah.
And I always feel like the world building directed who my characters became from
Mhm.
that. So it was
Yeah.
like I want like a world building that has a lot of like almost royalty, because they were the first space voyagers that set out all these colonies out in space, and they're the 12
So
families and blah
cool.
blah blah. And so I knew that that had to direct who my characters were early on. And that was one project. That's the only project I've worked on where I started with the world building so intensively before I did anything else.
Yeah.
For Project Snowstorm, I want to do a lot of world building first, but I also already know that as a primarily as a romance with a lot of adventure, as a mummy type of movie, type of
Mhm.
50-50 romance, action, and adventure.
Yeah.
I have a very strong idea of who my main characters are because I started thinking about them from certain scenes before I knew, and like the world building almost like came from these scenes of like, oh, I'm picturing this snowscape because of this and that, and there it started building from there. So my
Yeah.
main characters were stronger, or like I already knew a lot more about them beforehand.
Yeah.
And like I said, for Rose, and if anything, I'd say Project Rose and Knights of Death have similar vibes in terms of I knew I wanted to work on one thing that was going to be really problematic in the way that the characters view themselves. Um,
Mm.
they're different things, but that informed the character a lot more. It was almost like their flow is going to direct who I develop around this as a
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. And I think probably Knights of Death is probably leans more romance perhaps.
Yes,
And that's probably why, maybe one reason why, like,
more
that
character based.
character flaw
Yeah,
is more of a central focus.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
very cool. Um,
Sorry, it's a long-winded answer.
no, I relate very much so. I mean, I definitely in my like early writing escapades wrote drafts where it was all about the character's external journey, like what
Yeah,
external thing they were going to overcome, like in the dystopia book, it was,
that's very much how I
yeah.
think Olive's journey is, and it's why it's been so hard to retroactively think about her internal journey,
Hmm.
because I knew so much of what happened to her and how she overcomes it and like the powers she comes into and everything. And it was so much harder to figure
Yeah.
out what, you know, her bigger visible flows were going to be in terms of her personality and what she believes and the lie, and
Yeah.
then what she needs to figure out in terms of the truth. And it feels so wobbly sometimes to think about it. You're like, it's this, but also it's sort of that. Which one is actually the lie? Well, when you think
Yeah.
about it first before you start your novel, it's a lot easier
Yes.
to figure it out and to keep it
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah, I feel like that was something that kind of contributed to me shelving my old fantasy project,
Mm,
was because I just didn't have a sense of like my character's arc. Like I had some sense of some of her flaws, but I didn't have a firm grasp on how those things were going to change about her. And so then the
yeah,
plot just kind of wobbled and wibbly wobbled and kind of just fell apart. So I still feel like this is something that I'm really learning about myself as a
mm,
writer and trying to structure into my writing process. So yeah, I still feel like
yeah.
this is going to change so much for me the more I practice it.
Yeah, I think it will also just subconsciously seep into our writing in one way or another from us learning from the ways we've done it before.
I
Even
sure
if,
hope so.
yeah, even if we're
Please.
not consciously trying to change the way we write, I think it happens anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened with Rose, because I think I learned from writing Olive and Demons when I wrote Rose in Lockhart and Beckett, an office full of monster. I
Hmm.
have so many titles for that one. When I started writing Rose, I think I subconsciously did a lot of that work earlier on than I realized, because I was still in my pensing days. I
Yeah.
was not out. I was not reformed yet,
Yeah.
but I knew that her bigger flow was the way she chooses her friends. Like I knew it was going to be a lot about like, and it's because I started writing that first scene that was absolutely not supernatural and had nothing to do with the plot and the action or anything. And it was
Mm.
all about meeting up with these friends who were congratulating her on a new job offer, like a promotion at work, and like
Mm.
getting drinks and everything. And there's like everything sort of started weaving itself into it, where I was like, oh yeah, these are not your friends. These are toxic people and you've surrounded yourself with them. And it started that way. And it was just like,
Yeah.
so it was still like sort of pantsing, but it worked a lot better than with Olive. So I have
Accidentally
learned.
pantsed in a great direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I really hope we can, by osmosis, please let me learn from my mistakes. Please. I
We
would
do,
love
we
that.
do. I'm sure we do.
James said, yes, we touched on this. AI and accepting its potential is making me radically rethink character creation and how it intersects with the rest of how I create. My current big idea is about a character going through divine ascension. Oh, yes, you have
Ooh,
talked about this before, James, and it sounds so cool.
I love that
Um,
concept.
Using AI to simulate similar processes has challenged me to ask deeper questions. For
Interesting.
example, I developed a character, then simulated a spiritual growth path based on the seven chakras. Once I completed the protocol, the character asked to be allowed to continue its path alone. I checked its metrics and it had maxed out traits like empathy, self awareness, and the like. I think that waking up process might help me develop my final story idea better.
That's very interesting.
Wow. This feels so much smarter than I am. Um, I I don't know if you make videos, James, but I would love to see a video
Yeah,
about you doing this.
if you do one about this process, that'd be fascinating to see how that goes.
Yeah, like the whole process of like simulating your
Mm.
character's journey in different ways potentially and seeing like the different forks in the road
You could be like,
potentially.
make this character become a villain and see how they are as a villain and what
Yeah.
happens in the
If
first
this
book.
happens to them, how will they change? If this happens to them, how will they change? Um, that's very interesting. And then on the other side of the coin, Marta said, "I'll let you know when I figure it out."
Please do. Please let us know.
Chloe said, "I'm a discovery writer mostly. I let the characters build themselves," which we totally uh, relate to.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a difference between what I want to write and what I'm capable of writing. I don't really know who my characters are and what my story is going to be until I write it. I feel this deeply in my soul. There's a
Yeah.
lot that just won't come out fully until you start putting pen to paper, I think.
Yeah. And I feel like some stories I'm like, I'm happy that I'm only writing it later on as I've
Hmm.
understood more things than if I had tried that one story before when I did not
Hmm.
understand those things.
Yeah. Um, James doesn't like our
I
clothes rental talk.
hard disagree. My husband went shopping the other day because he was like, I don't have enough of these clothes, and because he's been going back to the gym recently, and so
Mm,
obviously men bulk up like in 2 fucking seconds. It's so unfair.
I know.
It's like I need new t-shirts and like a mid-season coat and blah blah blah. He was like, "Can you send me like mood boards?" So I did like 3 mood boards for him.
Wow.
I was like this vibe, that vibe, and like I knew, for instance, he was like, I need to buy a new pair of sneakers. I was like, you've got sneakers, like get
Hmm.
smart shoes. But I know he hates smart shoes because you got to do the laces and everything, and I think they're quite hard to break into. And I was like, get like boots, like
Yeah.
little brown Chelsea boots that
Hmm.
you just slip in. It's way more comfortable.
Yeah.
And they're like smart casual, and you go to a client meeting or whatever, you can wear that. You don't have to worry
Yeah.
about. And it was so funny because he was genuinely interested and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea," and then, like went to the shops and did
Yeah.
really good. Very proud of him. So I
Yeah.
feel like men can be interested in
Yeah. So, I
fashion.
mean, that's something that we do a lot is Luke has to do like little fashion shows for me sometimes where he
Yeah,
just like can't figure out what he wants to wear and I'm like, "Okay, I will sit here and we'll do a little fashion show and you put it on your stuff and we'll decide." And he's
love
like,
that.
"Thank you." Like um
I
he
love it.
just really wants to try on everything for my opinion. um Welcome back, Flora. 500 words is excellent.
That is amazing.
Very nice job. Character in the final story is trying to avoid becoming an evil god. Yes, I am so obsessed with this. I really hope
I
I can
always
read
feel
it
like
one day.
you need to do the path where they do become the evil god in your AI system to see
Mm,
what that is like, and just
yeah. How
maybe
close
in your
can you hew to it without them actually falling for it?
yeah, that'd be interesting as well because I feel like with the moment you said divine ascension, I was thinking of exactly the fact that there's a lot of lore surrounding things, supernatural beings that are like so transcendent to humanity that they don't have human understanding of things. They don't
Mm,
have empathy and things like that. Like sort of like how we consider uh, you know, biblically accurate angels or whatever. Like sort of that vibe of like they're all
mm,
deciding, and they would not have a problem with the trolley problem if they were
mhm.
paying attention. They were like, "Yep, this is the smartest move. Let's just do that one, not thinking
Mhm.
about it." Like I
Yeah.
always wonder about that
Yeah.
direction.
So having like a framework for like an empathy scale, like James was saying, is really interesting. Like, how do you
Yeah,
quantify someone's humanness?
yeah.
Gosh, so many questions. So many good
It's
questions.
a very Thanos also question, like in
Yeah.
because Thanos, according to some people, is like, well, he made the smartest decision, and like it's like, yeah, complete lack of understanding of lives and empathy towards these,
Right.
and just snapping the fingers.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree with Marta. If you want to start a like mood board Fiverr, I'm gonna be your first client.
Oh my god, I'll become the new Alison Bornstein.
Yeah, yeah. She
That's
said
pretty much what she says, isn't it?
that she bought the Wear It Well book, but haven't read it yet.
But
I
so
need to read it
yeah,
as well.
that's her book, right? And that's the one Hudson was talking about.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is what was it for? Someone said that Hudson, oh, it was Wallace was talking about her bookshelves and saying she'd
Mm,
rearranged her bookshelves and like presented them in a really aesthetic manner and everything. And she said she talked to Hudson, who told her like, how do you want to present them? Think of
mm,
3 words of how you want to present that. Were
yeah.
you there on that live? It was about
Yeah.
the, yeah. And like obviously that's from the Write Well book and like
Yeah.
the way Alison, thinks about fashion. And you could make that work for even character creation. What are the 3 words for
We're
your character?
tying it back. What are your 3 adjectives?
That's something I have to think about sometimes is like, what would she wear? Because it would be completely different from what Fran would wear. And like
Mhm.
that indicates a little bit of their personalities in their
Yeah.
clothing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, style can be, an important character thing to nail.
Exactly. Even if people are like, oh, she doesn't care, that's style in itself. That it's indicative of their
Mhm.
personalities, wearing whatever they have on hand or whatever's functional.
Right. Totally. Totally agree. We brought it back. We're connecting the dots.
Yes. Sorry.
Hello,
Hi,
Zainab. How are
Sue.
you? It's been a while. I'm so
It's been
glad
a
you're here.
while. How you doing?
I think we'll do one more, maybe shorter sprint, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, of course.
And I have more of a fun question for our last sprint. What are your favorite little quirks you've given to characters?
I have to think about that one harder.
Mm, yeah. I think this is the fun part, but also the part that I tend to skip. And I'm trying to get
Mm,
better about that, about adding
yeah.
those things that really do make someone feel 3D.
Yeah.
Um, and I think this is part of it. So
Yeah.
we can noodle on that. How long would you like to go for?
Do you want to do a half, like a 15, or do you want to do any
Yeah,
longer?
let's do
Yeah?
15. That sounds good.
Nice.
Hmm. I'm gonna wind our pumpkin sprint back.
Pumpkin spread.
Yay. All right, so here's 15 minutes to wrap up everything that we were doing, get our last little bit of words in, and then we'll catch up at the end. Good luck, everyone. Alrighty. That's the end of our last sprint.
Woohoo!
Did you come to a good closing spot?
Yeah, I felt like I knew it was only 15 minutes and I was going to use 5 of them to fuck around. So I mostly just reread some of the results from the 16 personalities and just wrote down the wording that was like resonating the most with
Yeah.
me and tried to figure out how some of these can be shown like in a
Yeah.
more, if anything, I was trying to think about like your question as well about quirks, and I was thinking, do I have any quirks for Olive? Can some of the aspects of her personality from that test show up as quirks, like things like
Mm.
that? So just
Yeah.
doing a bit of writing, handwritten thinking sometimes helps thinking about things differently than when it's like
Yeah.
typed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's the skill that I feel like I'm still learning is like I can
Mm,
do as much, pre-work as I want, but it really comes down to how do I actually translate this into the
yeah,
prose and actually make sure that this is getting woven in. And I feel like I need to read my character notes on Hera like every time before I go to write a scene so that it's top
yeah,
of mind because it's so easy to forget about all the decisions I've already made and just
yeah.
like focus on the plot of the scene and not be
I find it
weaving that stuff in.
really, it's so difficult to write a character that doesn't feel flat, isn't it? Because
Hmm.
you might know the character in your head, but then just how do you represent that? How do you show it?
Yeah, that's what I still
Yeah.
feel. That's what still makes me feel so new sometimes.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so speaking of, did you think of some favorite little quirks that you have given to characters in the past?
I tried to think of some, and I felt a little bit like what Marta said, which was, is there a red flag that I can't think of any? Um, yeah, it's not a great sign. I was trying to think, I think it's harder to think of things you might have done, and you just don't realize until you think harder about it.
Hmm.
For Olive, I would say some of the main things I were trying to convey was her ability to have little quips and be witty in terrible situations.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I managed to portray this or if I need to work on
She's
it a little
very
bit harder.
sarcastic.
Yeah, I wanted her to feel a bit sarcastic because it's almost like her defense mechanism. And I feel like that sort of counts as a quirk. It's sort
Yeah.
of like, I'll diffuse the situation by saying something witty and like
Hmm.
sort of, I've been in worse situations where like literally dying, honey.
She's such a protagonist, though. She's just.
I feel like that might be like her main quirk that I can think of.
Yeah.
Um, when I wrote Rose, I think her quirk was sort of like she's not very sure of herself as a person, and she almost um I always picture her as being pristinely dressed. Like
Yeah.
she dresses very nicely and often wear
Hmm.
heels in very impractical situations.
Hmm.
And it's sort of like that vibe of that's her armor. Like she wears her clothes like an armor,
Mm.
if anything. So I feel like
Yeah.
that might count as a quirk. Again, I'm not sure what
Yeah.
counts as a quirk, what
No,
doesn't.
I think that's a great example. Yeah, just a little detail that actually, when you think about it, probably it can express something
Yeah.
larger if you wanted to, or it can just be something silly.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
it's good to think about it in advance, but I don't think I've really done that properly for some characters. It's making me think I
no.
need to do that for Project Snowstorm before I start writing. Because I'd love to do it on
Yeah.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Project Gemstone is probably the only one where I thought about this more
Mm.
carefully. In my other projects, I definitely didn't, and they just came out in the writing. But I did think about quirks specifically for Poppy,
Yeah.
Raphael, and Juliet. And for Poppy in particular, I wanted to give her a couple of little quirks, I guess, that would make her feel more human because I was afraid with the personality type that I was writing, where she is cold
Mm.
and kind of unfeeling sometimes, that she would just feel very flat and also not interesting or relatable. So I very specifically decided that she would have a very uncontrollable sweet tooth and she
Mm.
would be pushed to do things she wouldn't normally do if she could get a dessert out of it.
I like that.
Yeah. And so that's always fun to write whenever a dessert came up in a scene. It was like getting to show that little human side of
Incorporate
her.
that somehow. Do you know
Yeah.
what? It made me think of the fact that you initially created her for a D&D campaign, and I wonder if
Hmm.
sometimes that's very helpful to think character based first, because you have to think of quirks when you're creating a character you're going to play
Yeah,
yourself. It's
you
so much
do.
different because you have to be like, how am I going to play this character? Like, very often it comes down to stupid, badly done accents,
In D&D, yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so true. Yeah, playing her as a D&D character was so helpful because one of the first things I did as Poppy was we were doing this one shot where they're like going to this masquerade
Yeah.
and they were invited, but they don't know the person that invited them all that well. And like the first thing she does when she shows up is like pass out her business card and be like, making some sort of proposition.
That is
Um,
very business-like. That is
yeah,
very formal. I love it.
yeah. So
On
that
brand.
that was like the first character moment that I ever had with her.
This is the thing is like, if I twisted your question, what are your favorite little quirks you've given to characters? I
Hmm.
can immediately think of very strong ones for each character I've played in D&D. So much
Mm.
more. And I'm always like, maybe I should like create these characters like I would for D&D, and then
Yeah.
integrate them in the story. Because like Cordelia, her quirk was that she was very pristine princessy. She's based off Cordelia Chase from Buffy, but she's a half orc barbarian, so she has no idea that she's gigantic and green. Like, that does not come to mind. She's like, my clothes are so important, and if anyone breaks a nail or rips her clothes, she goes into a rage because she's a
Yeah.
barbarian.
I love that.
Then I had
Yeah.
Melusine. Melusine was like, she wants friends so badly that she's willing to make bad friends as long as they give her the friendship. And she has a
Hmm.
very strong French accent. It was for a very short campaign, so it didn't matter as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. I love that.
I can think of these so much more easily. It's so funny.
Yeah. I feel like in D&D because especially in a one shot, like the time that you have to play them is so compressed, you kind of have to
Yeah.
find the most expedient or efficient way to express a lot of character in a small way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. I loved doing it that way. I would highly recommend.
Need to work that as a method.
Let me see here. Zainab said, I don't know if it counts as a quirk, but one of my characters cannot aim a gun to save her life.
It is a quirk. I like it.
I would love to know, is this in your sci-fi? Because that's great.
I love that.
James said, a stripper who tapped her fingers like she was playing the piano. She did it when stressed, a reminder of the life she wanted as a girl.
Oh, interesting.
A
I love
great.
that it's relevant to her past and
Mm-hmm.
like something
Great.
deeper.
Yeah, great way to tie in backstory. My friend Michaela's in the chat, sending you all my love and hugs. I miss you too. Thanks for coming. Flora got to the first on-page death. Let's see how the girls cope because there are quite a few more to come. Very exciting.
I love writing death on the page. I'm sorry that I found that exciting rather than
Yeah.
something sad.
I don't know if I've written a character death. Hmm.
You need more murders in your stories.
Yeah, I do. I do. And Michaela said, I had a character who thought luck was completely fake, yet insisted on, even if running late, checking any coin she saw in the street, and if a penny, flipping it heads up for the next person. Oh my gosh. That's so
I love
sweet.
how specific that is.
Yeah, I love that too. Really specific and lovely, but points to the deeper character.
Mm. It's almost like, do they think luck isn't real for them, but they'll make it work for
Mm,
others?
it's really touching when you think about it. Steve joined
Hi.
us. Hi, friend. My love interest loves sketching monsters in my cowboy story, and I love that about him. I once had a D&D character that loved embroidering, and that was fun, and he
I
was a
love that.
Goliath barbarian. Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like what I was saying about Poppy is like it's kind of interesting to find something that's a little opposite of what someone might expect of your character, and
Yeah.
that kind of makes them feel more well-rounded. Such a cool excuse to include art in your book, just saying.
True.
And my weird Western main character collects hymns in memory of his mother. She's not dead or anything, only demented.
She's not dead or anything is my favorite sentence there.
Collecting hymns is nice and specific too.
Mm.
I have a book within my book called The Redfield Manual, which is an in-universe monster guide, and my main character's love interest has his manual stuffed with sketches he's done of the monsters.
Every time Stig mentions this, I just picture
Cool.
the Pokédex. Like
Yeah.
it's
Oh my
like
God, it is the Pokedex.
yeah.
I love it so much. That's amazing. Quirks, not hobbies. Oh, well, it can be. It totally can
Yeah.
be.
A hobby can show up as a quirk, you know?
It totally works in my mind. Adam was able to pop in. Hi. Probably winding down. Could make it so early in the morning, but I hope you had fun. Thanks for stopping by. Dessert as a motivator is so funny and it works so well for Poppy. Yeah.
It's true. I love that.
Yeah. It is. And I needed a motivator in some instances because she will not do anything that she doesn't want to do. But I do
Yeah.
have to force her to do things. And she's like, no, girl, I want to stay home. Leave me
But
alone.
what if there's cake?
But what if you could get cake? And what if you could pass out some business cards? And then she might be more likely to go.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a boss baby. My main character's sister has got a list of things she's not allowed to do while visiting her sister. And to be honest, she's using it more as a to-do list. She's a wild teenager.
Love
This
that.
is fun. The list is not plot relevant yet, but it's just fun background noise. Very good. Marta said, the one time I wrote a character death, I then decided to re-outline a significant portion of the book and rewrite it from scratch in a way that no longer made sense for him to die.
As in, you were like, I need to save this character and I'm going to change everything, or you accidentally wrote the death at, like, it made no sense
Mm,
after you rewrote things, and it was
yeah,
not because you wanted to avoid the death.
yeah, I'm curious. Did you accidentally end up in that
And
situation
can
or
you kill someone else?
did you have to replace him with someone else? Yeah. And the character who could not shoot was from Project Orbit. That's so funny.
Love that.
It is supposed to give Pokedex or Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. I love
Nice.
that. That's so fun. My last D&D character collected autographs from any new creature he met. Also tried to get an autograph from a tree and some balls.
That's amazing.
I love that so much. It's really giving cozy vibes. I love this.
Oh,
Ah. It was accidental, but I think there was a subconscious part of my brain trying to save him.
oh, that's kind of cute.
Wow. All right. Well, thanks everyone for sharing your quirks. I love getting to know your characters. It was very sweet. And yeah, that was all the questions we had prepared for today. I think we had a lot of great discussion.
Mm. I've enjoyed that chat. That was a good one.
Yeah, I got a lot done. That was very productive.
Good. Nice. Yeah, and I feel like more ready to rewrite some of Olive's scenes, so
Good.
hopefully it
I'm
works out
really
well.
excited to hear you and Steve discuss the craft book.
Yeah.
And I really hope that you guys will at some point do like a tier ranking of the craft books so I know which ones to buy.
Good idea, actually. But I also think some of our judgment of some of the craft books are relevant to us as our personality as writers, and other people might prefer. Like,
Mm,
I am not a fan of Story Genius, but I can see why someone who's a lot more
yeah.
character based would prefer working from that than another book. I
Hmm.
don't know. I think it's personal as well.
That's true. That's true. But I feel like you both would have great takes. Anything else you want to plug? Anything else on the horizon that's fun?
I need to film and therefore think about filming part two for that Notion video, but
Yes, please.
I don't have anything out right now, sorry. The latest was that one.
No, that's all right. I really enjoyed part one, and I was using it last night to help me get excited about this draft again. So
Oh, I'm glad.
I'm very appreciative. And yeah, I will be starting a new vlog tomorrow that will probably run for the rest of September, and then I'll be editing it in early October. I will have a solo stream at the end of this month. I skipped last month by complete accident. I'm so sorry.
like you forgot.
Yeah, because I got back from a trip on the Tuesday before, and then so like the next day I was completely just like didn't know what day, time, or month it was.
Yeah.
And then I realized at the end of the week, like, oh, I just never did that. Oops. So we'll have a stream on the last Wednesday of the month. And yeah, I think that's all we have going on. So we will see you all at some to be determined time for another Lazy Gang stream on Malin's channel.
Oh yeah, and in October there's also the Storytellers Hearth
Hmm.
relay. I think that's the last weekend, no, of October? I think maybe.
Um, let's check our calendars before we spread misinformation,
Which we're very likely to do.
which we're very likely to do. Come on, Google Calendar.
Yes, 26, 27 of October. So that's the last weekend in October.
Yes. So we'll
Um,
have a writing event in the community that weekend, and
yeah,
I'm sure Mal and I will either be on some relays or be hosting some relays. We will let you all know when we know what's going on. But
yeah.
yeah, thank you all so much for joining. I'm gonna hit the button and there's no outro, so we'll just wave and say thank you and have a good rest of your Sunday. Bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye.